when you look at it more broadly at the data, and that's why we're seeing what we're seeing is that we are in a transition.
Ah, yes. The Democrats are constantly in a transition, aren't they? What is it with them and their genitals? They have a great many issues. I cannot speak to most of them. I will confess. Oh, a very wonderful Thursday to you, and welcome back. Once again, President Trump has ordered an investigation. The Department of Justice investigate Joseph Robinette Biden, the Biden White House, and the Autopen, the use of the Autopen. How many instances of the Biden White House Autopen being used involved pardons for criminals and illegal acts? And not just Hunter Biden. We believe that Joe Biden used his own pen and his own signature to pardon his son for 11 years, not for 10 years, going backward now, not forward. They're going to have to get another president for that, I think, but for 11 years. And it appears that Joe Biden actually signed that pardon. But they got a stack of pardons that where the signatures are all identical, which is not normal at all. If you sign your name, your signature 10 times, you're going to have 10 different signatures that will be individual signatures. And the Autopen, that produces the same signature again and again. And how many presidential acts, executive orders, and so on were signed using an Autopen, and who had the control over the Autopen? That's a really good question, because it looks like Joe Biden wasn't actually the president of the United States in the traditional sense. But President Trump, in any event, has ordered the Department of Justice, which is not, I'd like to think, a corrupt hellhole as it was under Joe Biden. But President Trump asking the Department of Justice to take a look at the use of the Autopen, and kind of a big deal. Pam Bondi is going to launch a full-blown investigation into the Biden White House, their use of the Autopen, the scandal. What should it be called? Autogate? Autogate? Autogate, I think, is what they do in the closet when they're hanging themselves, isn't it? Is that that's their autoerotic asphyxiation. I'm sorry, close but different. The Democrats are very big on that. That's for sure. So let's take a look and see what because who was in charge? Who was really the president? Who was ordering the Autopen to be used? Who had control over the Autopen? How many people took payments, cash, inside the Biden White House to provide pardons by way of a presidential pardon, using the Autopen to approve the pardons for people that could pay off White House officials? Let's take a look at that. Maybe it's time to break out the handcuffs, pre-dawn raids, camera crews across the street, the usual stuff. I'm telling you, that's what I'm telling you. Isn't that amazing? So we've got that. And that is kind of a big deal, because it goes to who is really the president of the United States. You people. Also, the New York Times, they're freaking out about the investigation into the use of the Autopen. They call it an outlandish conspiracy theory. What's a conspiracy? Oh, that the Autopen was used by people not the president. We've already established that the Autopen was used by people not the president. The New York Times is one of the dirtiest bunch of liars. And certainly, let's just stick with North America for now, because that's pretty amazing stuff. You're a Democrat party. Yes, sir. All right. Also, we've got more going on than that. President Trump with the new travel ban. That's what the news media is calling it. There are restrictions on travel from terrorist countries after we just had a radical Islamic jihadi terrorist attack in Boulder, Colorado, by an Egyptian lover of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood banned in Egypt, where it started in the 1920s. And now it's alive and well in the United States, thanks to the Democratic Party, because they love death, more than you love life. The Washington Post, they've got it as their lead story today. They're against it. They're for jihad. They're against cracking down on jihad in the United States. Trump revives, widens entry ban. There was never an entry ban, so it's not being revived and it's not being widened. But listen to this. More than a dozen nations affected. 2018 High Court ruling may give it legal strength. I mean, the Supreme Court has already ruled in favor of it, are you trying to say? And they've got three leftists typing on behalf of the Democrat Party on the front page of the Washington Post for their lead story. President Donald Trump on Wednesday restricted the entry of travelers to the United States from more than a dozen countries, each one of them a beep hole country, resurrecting and expanding sweeping restrictions from his first term that are expected to draw swift legal challenges. Yeah, definitely get a Biden-appointed judge because they love death more than we love life. Maybe an Obama-appointed judge. Any Democrat judge will do. They always give the Democrat Party's desired outcome, no matter what the law or the Constitution says. What the Supreme Court has said, they could care less. They're the left. They're not liberals. The Washington Post continues to whimper. The presidential proclamation slated to go into effect June 9th. June 9th. Today is June 5th, of course. Go into effect June 9th. Fully restricts the entry of individuals from, listen to this now, Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea. The Democrats want more people from Equatorial Guinea. Eritrea, Haiti. That's where they barbecued the cannibal gang leader in Port-au-Prince, right? Haiti, Iran. The Democrats want to have nuclear weapons in the hands of Iran with ballistic missiles so that millions will die. Libya. I remember Libya. That's the country that the Obama administration bombed for 8 months. And Barack Obama promised us that it would take days, not weeks. And then the media switched it off and pretend it wasn't happening. They completely ignored 8 months of bombing of Libya until the leader there, who had kind of been brought into the anti-terrorist fold and had turned against ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And then he was killed, and he deserved it and everything. Muammar Gaddafi, he was a bad guy, terrorist, radical Islamic jihadi terrorist. Now the Democrats are waving him into the country. But they bombed for 8 months and then left it in the hands of radical Islamic terror groups with nobody in charge. It was anarchy and chaos after, and you remember that was Hillary Clinton, where Hillary Clinton famously said, "We came, we saw, he died." That was her cleverism after he had been beaten and clubbed to death by his own people after 8 months of bombing. Of course, Barack Obama used the U.S. military to attack more countries than any president since World War II. And they gave him the Nobel Peace Prize for melanin levels. That was the only qualification that year. So we've got, good places: Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. The Democrats, they want more Yemenis into the country. I should have the story in front of me, and I don't on a regular basis. But there was a kind of tragically hilarious story out of San Francisco, I guess about a couple of years ago now, during Joe Biden. And a family from Yemen was allowed to come into the United States, fleeing the chaos and civil war and terrorism in Yemen and the Houthis and all that. And this Yemeni family came into the United States, and they were located to San Francisco, right? And when they moved to San Francisco, they sent their daughter to public school there, and the daughter had to walk a couple of blocks to school. Mom got a job. Dad was there. And they were there, and they were so horrified by what they found in San Francisco with dead people laying on the sidewalks, homeless people, junkies, lunatics with hammers in their hands. Every place they went, it was completely insane. And they actually returned to Yemen. Now, that should have been a 60-minute story every week. But this family from Yemen, Just amazing. They came to the United States. Oh, thank God, we've escaped the horrors of Yemen. They found themselves in San Francisco. They were there for months, and then they said, this is worse than Yemen. This is San Francisco. Look what the Democrats have done. This is like Jonestown waiting to happen again. You know, like Harvey Milk, who loved Jonestown. He loved the People's Temple, and Jim Jones sent a nice letter about them to Jimmy Carter. And then the Democrats named a ship after him because he loved Jim Jones and the Temple of Doom, and because he pulled a homeless runaway street kid, a young boy, off the sidewalks and raped him illegally for months in his apartment. And then the Democrats named a Navy ship after him because they love child rape and they love mass suicide, the Democrat Party. Aren't they crazy? Yes, they are. Yeah, that was great. They should be famous, that Yemeni family that decided to go back to Yemen because San Francisco was creepier than Yemen. And Yemen is one of the creepiest places in the world. Aren't they amazing? Our Democrat Party. Yes, sir. All right, we've got a lot of stories to get to as well. And we've got Cringe Jean-Pierre. She's got her book out. Well, it's not. She doesn't have her book out. It's going to be months and months before her book is out. She posted a video yesterday, and the video is posted with a date on it. I think the date is October 21st. And I said, well, why? I look forward to watching this video when it comes out on October 21st. And it turns out maybe that's the date when the book that somebody else is writing is supposed to come out. Pretty amazing stuff. Man, oh man. Yes, sir. Our government. So I've got Cringe coming up. And the Chinese communist couple, try to keep you posted on them bringing bioterror weapons into the United States to the University of Michigan because, you know, pretty amazing stuff. I love this one, too. The sports bra. What? I'm sorry, CBS News headline, the sports bra. Who doesn't love a good sports bra? A bar that only shows women's sports is opening in Boston. That's right. It only shows women's sports, and it's called the Sports Bra because they misspelled bar. See, they misspelled bar. And a little play on words, it's the Sports Bra. A bar dedicated to showcasing only women's sports, but they don't know what women are. Here's the thing. They got a Supreme Court justice who doesn't even know. And the Democrats, they think that men can say, I'm a woman now. And the Democrats say, yay, I'm celebrating you. You're a woman now. You don't have any of the requisite body parts or anything like that, but never mind that, because what the heck? Yes, sir. So a new bar dedicated to showcasing only women's sports. You know, they have TVs, big screen TVs, coming to Massachusetts. The Sports Bra. Can I go there? Because I might want to go there. It could be an interesting place to go.
I don't think it's going to be open long.
It may not be open long, you think? There was when I was living in Santa Barbara, there was a lesbian bar in Santa Barbara. I'm trying to remember what the name of it was, a lesbian bar. And I had a couple of friends of mine went there one night. They were men, and they were heterosexual men. And they went to the lesbian bar, and they went and they were there for a couple of minutes before one of the guys that I knew had a pool cue broken across the back of his head by an angry lesbian, where he learned later they were Democrats. They were Democrats. That's one of the problems, you know. That's one of the big ones. When it comes to Father's Day, which is coming up fast, some things never change, and that one of them is dads love steaks. Who doesn't love steaks? From USDA-certified tender steaks to burgers and more, Omaha Steaks delivers the world's best steak experience, guaranteed to secure, your spot as dad's favorite in the pecking order. Shop omahasteaks.com and give Dad the legendary heartland quality that he deserves and craves. Plus, our listeners, because we hang out together, get an extra $35 off with the promo code PLANT when you get to checkout. Growing up in Chicago, I remember coveting my next-door neighbors when they had their deliveries of Omaha steaks. We never had them delivered. Just great Omaha steaks. I could smell them. I could look over the fence. And now I have them delivered to my house. Much better that way. The fan favorite filet mignon has earned the coveted distinction of USDA certified tender. And their all-new smash burgers. Smash burgers are just built for the grill from the ground up. This Father's Day, give Dad the world's best steak experience with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for guaranteed perfect gifts that deliver legendary quality. And for an extra $35 off, use the promo code PLANT at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com. Extra $35 off with the promo code PLANTE at checkout. See the site for details. Yes, sir. Yeah, everywhere I look, I see Democrat Party dementia. Oh, speaking of which, I got a Luigi Mangione update for you, too. We got Chinese communist, Latin American gang members, Luigi Mangione, the sports bra, all having to do with Democrats. How can that be? Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. I'm going to get into shortly the Joe Biden Autopen. President Trump has ordered the Justice Department to investigate Joe Biden, the Biden White House's use of the Autopen for pardons, among other things. And when do you hear CNN's response to this? CNN, that one of their fankers, absolutely indignant that anyone would raise such a question. Then she self-immolated. Isn't that amazing? We don't have a ton of time, but perhaps we can grab a quick phone call from Mike, calling from Stevens City, Virginia. Michael, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, here's this unraveling story up in Baltimore about an oil spill, a diesel fuel spill.
Uh-huh.
And either there's an error in the reporting or somebody's accidentally revealed a scam. Diesel fuel is not red. Red dye is added to home heating fuel to be able to be sure that truckers are not using diesel in their tanks to avoid state and federal tax on fuel. And so if these guys were supposed to be pumping diesel fuel into these tanks and were using home heating fuel, somebody was trying to avoid paying taxes.
Oh, and you've seen video and it appears red. Is that the case?
Oh, that's the very first report was red dye was spilled. But as it turns out, it's the red dye that was in the fuel.
So the initial reports are wrong is what you're saying, and pay attention because there's a scam going on here. Very interesting. Thank you, Michael. I'll do that. Now, we all know that Joe Biden's brain, she's a broke. Joe Biden's a brain, she's a no good. She's been a no good for a long, long time. He has been wrong about everything for 40 years now, at least. According to a former CIA director and former defense secretary, and, he's been wrong about everything forever. Now, there is an interesting story that has emerged, and it has to do with Joe Biden and the Biden White House's use of the Autopen. Now, CBS News very, very upset. Trump orders investigation into Biden aides for alleged health conspiracy, right? Now, that's one of them. And also, President Trump has the Justice Department examining pardons issued by Joe Biden because it seems obvious that a great many of the pardons, which are publicly available, have an identical signature, not a similar, but an identical signature. And it appears obvious to people that have used Autopens that this is the Joe Biden Autopen being used on pardon, for criminals, convicted criminals. Pardon after pardon after pardon with the Autopen. So does Joe Biden even know who he pardoned? That becomes a legitimate question, right? And this has been going on for some time now, for weeks at least. Trump says Biden Autopen looks like a bigger and bigger scandal, President Trump said several weeks ago. And yesterday, Trump orders investigation into those who covered up Biden's decline and into the Autopen. Now, Peter Doocy covers the White House for the Fox News Channel. He was in the White House briefing yesterday, and Caroline Leavitt, the wonderful spokeswoman, not like cringe, but Caroline Leavitt, wonderful. And Peter Doocy put the question to her, a very smart woman, about the use of the Autopen. And the Fox News people, they took a whole stack of the criminal pardons and overlapped the documents, and you see that they're all obviously signed by the Autopen because they're perfectly identical, all the Joe Biden signatures, until you get to the Hunter Biden pardon, and that's clearly a different signature, and it appears that Joe Biden actually signed that one using his hand, pardoning his son, not for 10 years, but for 11 years going backward. Peter Doocy at the White House briefing yesterday.
When you look at these last-minute Biden pardons, the big ones, Biden siblings, Fauci, January 6th committee.
That's right.
Most of the big ones have the same very neat signature. We would expect that probably to be the Autopen. There is one that looks different. It looks authentic. Is this White House of the opinion that the only pardon that would count is one that the president signed himself?
It's very interesting.
Now, that is a good question. If there are White House staffers using the Autopen, and we don't know what White House staffers, using the Autopen to sign pardons with a fake presidential signature, an Autopen signature, which can be legitimate, it can, or not. It might be illegitimate. For all we know, White House staffers are being paid $500,000 by some convicted criminal, a Democrat donor, no doubt, who gets the pardon, right? And maybe somebody's getting paid off in the White House, but with piles of money. Who can say? And then there was this kind of amusing moment this morning on CNN. Oh, I apologize. You're absolutely right. Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, was asked by Peter Doocy, hey, should we just assume that all these are Autopen, but the one legit signature is for Hunter Biden's family pardon?
The president is making a good point when he discusses the usage of the Autopen. Who was running the country for the past 4 years? Perhaps those documents were signed with the Autopen, something that I believe the Department of Justice is looking into. As you saw, Ed Martin made an announcement at the Department of Justice this morning to launch an investigation because the American people deserve answers.
Because the American people deserve answers. I think the American people do deserve answers. All right, now I apologize. I got a little ahead of myself there. The people on CNN, they have a fake anchor woman by the name of Kate Bolden. She used to be better. She's gotten worse. And they had a guest on named Brad Todd. No relation as far as we can tell. You know, to Chunk. He doesn't look like a sousaphone player or a French horn player. But here's the panel on CNN. And listen to Kate Bolden become irate. She's angry that anyone would question the fact that, you know, these Autopen signatures should raise an eyebrow. And if you were a journalist, you'd at least raise an eyebrow at a bare minimum and say, well, let's look into this. We'll swat it down for the Biden administration, for the Democrat Party, because, you know, that's her role as a CNN fanker. And it sounded like this on CNN. Really angry fanker, Kate Bolden. Yeah, there's nothing to see here. And what the stuff that she says is pretty crazy, I've got to say. Kate Bolden, CNN, defending Joe Biden. There's nothing to see here. There's nothing to talk about. The sky didn't start bleeding.
Every president does use the Autopen.
Yeah.
The question is, did Joe Biden know what the Autopen was being used for?
Again, there literally is no suggestion that he didn't. That's the.
No, there is.
I also don't know if the clouds above me could be purple because right now I'm in a studio. It doesn't mean I want to launch a federal investigation into it. That's the point.
The point is you're nowhere near being a journalist. That's the point. The clouds being purple. you have a pretty good fix on that because you probably see clouds most every day of your life, and they've never been purple before. So given your advanced age and maturity, I'm sure that a pattern has been established, a correct pattern in your mind. But she said there literally is no suggestion. There literally is no suggestion, right, that he didn't. No, there's a good deal of suggestion that he didn't. And there are politicians, members of Congress, the Senate making the suggestion, members of the House. There are people at the Justice Department that are raising questions. And you as a journalist should be curious enough to say something like, well, let's take a look at it and see. And even though you're a hardcore Democrat front girl and fangirl, and it's just embarrassing what the fake news media does. So Brad Todd is the guy who said, well, and she becomes angry and bitter, spitting mad. There is literally no suggestion that he didn't.
There literally is no suggestion that he didn't.
No, that's just not true. There's a good deal of suggestion. Now, you can say that it's political. You can make that false Democrat Party talking point claim if you'd like, Kate Bolden. But as an alleged journalist, what you should be doing is raising an eyebrow, raising a question, and demanding. You know how they're always demanding everything and not asking for things. Answers to these questions. And maybe go to, there's also Joe Biden. He's bitter and angry. I also have news for you out of the Supreme Court today because decisions have come out of the Supreme Court this morning that I wish to share with you as well. But Joe Biden has now angrily denounced any suggestion, but he's not the one you go to for, he's supposed to be the bad guy here. You don't go to the bad guy and ask him for his opinion, and then you're good to go, right? No, Al Capone says he's completely innocent and he's not a member of organized crime. And then CNN says, see, he's not a member of organized crime.
I also don't know if the clouds above me could be purple.
No, you've got a pretty good handle on that, and so does everyone else. The Autopen is a little different. But Axios, the left-wing radicals at Axios, they've got the headline today, quote, ridiculous and false, end quote. Biden hits back at Trump over Autopen investigation. Well, and Kate Bolden has said there's literally no, it's just the former president is responding to the current president raising the question, but at CNN, they shout you down and say there's nothing to see here. There's literally no suggestion that he didn't sign these pardons. And the people at Axios are all over it. So former President Joe Biden pushed back Wednesday night, that's last night, on President Trump's announcement of an investigation into presidential actions using the Autopen that his staff may have been covering up whether Joe Biden knew anything about. Since Joe Biden's brain is no good, who was really in charge? And that's what this goes to, whether Joe Biden had checked out to the point that White House staffers had taken over. And who knows how corrupt they are. I assume they're very corrupt because they're Democrats. Let me be clear. I made the decisions during my presidency. Now, this is very general and vague. I made the decisions about the pardons, executive orders, legislation, and proclamations, Biden said in a statement written by someone else, shared with outlets including Axios. Any suggestion that I didn't is ridiculous and false. I want to know who wrote that statement for him. And do they run the Autopen over that? Wow, just amazing. This is nothing more than a distraction. You know how they love the word distraction. They love that. By Donald Trump and congressional Republicans who are working to push disastrous legislation that would cut essential programs like Medicaid. They've said 1,000 times that there are no cuts to Medicaid. Now, if you're an illegal alien in the country, unemployed, suckling on the American taxpayer teat, then I think that you probably should not be getting free stuff that's paid for by me and Michael Piercy and by Jasmine, because I'm not working all day to pay for your free stuff, you illegal alien gang members who are lazy deadbeats without jobs. But never mind that. And the Democrats, everybody's going to die. It's the we're all going to die bill, honestly. ridiculous, ridiculous people. Man, oh man. And who is it? Yes, Kate. CNN anchor lady Kate Bolden.
I was almost surprised that the former president put out a statement on this. To me, almost giving it the investigation credence. And he said, "Let me be clear: all the decisions I made were decisions on my own, and so on and so forth." What do you do?
Joe Biden, who's senile, puts out a statement, and it's the burning bush of truth for Kate Bolden and CNN. Donald Trump opens an investigation into possible government abuses of power, using the Autopen, providing pardons to friends of the party. And she is completely contemptuous of and dismissive of anything coming from the Trump White House. And then she's, if anything, disappointed that Joe Biden had somebody else write a statement and somebody else put out a statement. And she takes it like it's the burning bush of truth. And anything that comes from the Trump White House, she's filled with contempt for anything that can. That's award-winning journalism in Washington and New York. Isn't that great? It's good to be a Democrat. That's the only reason it's good to be a Democrat. That, and they know how to treat monkeypox. Those are two. You know why they know how to treat monkeypox? Because they all have monkeypox. They've all got monkeypox. Whatever you do, don't date Democrats unless you're immune to monkeypox. They've got a lot of monkeypox going around. They've turned it into a friend of theirs. Now it's just Mpox. Wasn't that a Kevin Spacey movie? Oh, that's K-Pax. Sorry, that was a different venereal disease that Democrats have spread. Our news media. Okay, let's take a phone call, Michael. Let's go to George, calling from beautiful Chicago, Illinois. Jorge, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
How's it going, Mr. Plant?
Very well.
You're talking about this whole Autopen thing, but from what I understand, it's not illegal. So what is? I don't understand what the problem is if it's not illegal.
Well,
every president has done it.
It's not illegal for the president to do it, but the question became some time ago, weeks ago now, whether White House staffers had effectively taken over as acting president of the United States because Joe Biden was not up to the task and everybody knew it, and whether the senior staffers or even not so senior staffers were availing themselves of the Autopen to pardon people that they know or people that maybe are paying money for pardons. Maybe there was some kind of a trade-off, a quid pro quo. Maybe there is money changing hands. Maybe there is influence changing hands, and that Joe Biden didn't know a thing about who he was pardoning other than his son.
Oh, so the question here is kind of bribery thing. Is it the same thing as that? Didn't a lady pay Trump $1 million for her son to be pardoned? Maybe I'm getting my facts wrong or not here. But didn't he not just pardon somebody that his mom donated?
I did see a report about that on CNN or someplace, that there was a woman who was a donor.
Correct.
And that her son received a pardon. I did see a story about that. And I bet CNN...
Is that not bribery?
Well, you'd have to look at the circumstances, the timeline, and a variety of factors, of course. But I would be in favor of taking a look at the timeline and to see whether there is anything curious about it, because you certainly don't want that sort of thing going on. Now, you're right, this has been going on forever. Bill Clinton famously pardoned Wall Street people that gave him lots of money that were guilty as hell of big crimes that would have sent him to prison for a long, long time. I think that I'm gonna look it up for you. I'm going to look it up for you. I am, George, because I think that the guy had already done time in jail. Isn't that right? And then President Trump let him out. And then the news media was very curious about this one. And they said, hey, wait a minute. Somebody in his family had contributed money in the past. And so this has the stench of corruption. But then you have this instance where who knows how many and who knows for how long it went on. And also, President Trump was aware of what was happening there. And really, George, one of the big questions here is, who was in charge of the Autopen, because Joe Biden, you understand that Joe Biden's brain is not fully functional, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think that goes down to the whole road of we should limit age limit for a president. I mean, let's be honest here. If you ask Trump right now, of all his executive orders he signed, how many do you truly think he would remember? How many? All of them? Absolutely not. We both know that. They're old. These men are old, and there should be an age limit for both, for everybody.
Well,
Every single president, there should be an age limit.
I've got to say, well, that's a discussion worth having, certainly, and that's just fine. But Joe Biden would be the impetus for that discussion, because Joe Biden's age is a real issue. There is really no suggestion that Donald Trump's age is an issue when it comes to his intellect, his memory, his ability to recall. He holds hour-long press conferences practically every day, fielding questions on every subject across the spectrum, and he never comes off like a doddering fool. He's never come off like a doddering fool. Whereas Joe Biden has been coming off like a doddering fool every day, every appearance for years and years. That's an important difference, George. Yeah, here's a story that the news media really sunk their teeth into. President Trump did pardon a guy named, Paul Walczyk. Paul Walczyk was convicted of failing to pay taxes. And it's true, and Walczyk in the a nursing home business, I guess it is. Nursing home owner and executive. And he was convicted of failing to pay taxes, employment taxes, millions of dollars. And he was sentenced to 18 months, a year and a half in prison, and to pay $4 million in restitution. President Trump did pardon Paul Walczyk. And it's true that Walczyk's mother had attended a fundraising event at Mar-a-Lago weeks earlier. Beyond that, I don't know all the details. Was Walczyk, who knows? Taxes, I can't speak to the details. But that's the kind of thing you take a look at, and the media did.